Baltimore wins this one in overtime, 41-38, and I have a deep sigh because two of our producers behind the glass are Bengals fans. Sorry, Quinn and Eli, but we got to talk about it here. We're looking at the top 5 graded players for the Baltimore Ravens as they won this game. Tight end Charlie Kohler with a 91.4, and then tight end Mark Andrews right after him with an 83.1. Linebacker Roquan Smith with an 83.1 as well. Nnamdi Madubuike with a 82.1, and then number 5 on the list, Zay Flowers with an 80.6. Lamar Jackson in this one, a little bit of an up and down day for him, a 69.5 overall grade. Flip sides to the Cincinnati Bengals. Wide receiver Jamar Chase at the top of the list with a 91.8. Wide receiver T. Higgins with an 85.6. Anytime that those two dudes are at the top, the Bengals scored a lot of points, as they obviously did. Defensive tackle B.J. Hill with a 78.2. Edge rusher Sam Hubbard with a 73.2. And then tight end Mike Gesicki with a 70.8. Joe Burrow in this one got an 89.4 PFF grade. Tight game, obviously down to the wire, ends up going to overtime. Division matchup, Ravens-Bengals. They've had some heated games over the last 4 or 5 years specifically when these quarterbacks have been involved. But what was the stat that told the story here for you?
Look, the Bengals have scored 30-plus in 3 straight weeks and lost 2 of those games.
Look, I know it's probably annoying to hear this as Bengals fans, but this is a good football team, I think.
I think it's half a good football team.
It's a football team that's capable of winning every single week because of what their offense can do now that they have those wide receivers entrenched in the lineup.
If you have Joe Burrow, you have a chance.
Yeah. And it's what makes the Patriots loss at the beginning of the year so frustrating. And it's obviously what makes the Commanders loss as well, with Jaden Daniels having to go absolutely superhuman to beat you. Frustrating as well.
They are 1-4 and immensely close to being 5-0. Think about it. They fumbled on the 1-yard line against the Patriots. The Burrow fumble against the Chiefs, and then a PI. Jaden Daniels tore him up, but Washington couldn't get a stop in that game. If they get one stop against Washington all day,
that's why it's very frustrating.
It's their defense. Even the first game against New England, they didn't give up a lot of points, but they got run all over in that game. And in this game, look, a 42.3 overall grade for their defense. That's the lowest since week 18 of 2021, and I'm pretty sure they were playing backups that week. I think I have to go another year back for something lower. And a 32 coverage grade in this game. The last one I could find that low for the Bengals is week 2 of 2019. Burrow wasn't even on the team yet. This defense, they had 1 sack. They had 2 forced incompletions and 47 coverage snaps, and they allowed 520 yards. And it's just, you can't give up 38, 41 points, even to the Panthers, who actually kind of had a shot to get back in that game, giving up 24 to Carolina. This is just, it's torpedoing their season. And I know their offense wasn't good in week 1, but their defense has made mistakes in 3 of these losses, big mistakes in 3 of these losses. And even, and I know we're going to get into the field goal argument and everything that happened in that sequence. The very next play, they gave up a 60-yard run to Derrick Henry. This is what we do when we take one punch in the stomach and we just quit on it. We give up a 60-yard run. This Bengals defense is the reason they're 1-4. And I know the Patriots game is rough. That was rough all the way around, but they're giving up points left and right, and they're making mistakes left and right. And there's really not a single player on their defense playing up to the standard they need to be playing at. To give up 41 points in this game. How much better can we get Joe Burrow to play? Through 5 touchdowns.
No, right. The bar's got to be high. But look, my stat that told the story is that this is just 2 of the best quarterbacks in the world going head-to-head. That's the stat that told the story. It's one of the best games that we saw. The Lamar play down 10 with 5 minutes to go, where he stiff-arms Sam Hubbard twice, and he still finds Isaiah Likely in the end zone. That's nuts. That's MVP-level play, and obviously this is a multi-MVP player. But both of these guys, over 300 yards passing, both of them, 3 big-time throws and 1 turnover-worthy play, 9 passing touchdowns between the 2 of them, and both of them had a QBR above 119. It was just a special, special performance with both of these players. I think Lamar had the best play, but I think Burrow just, so many plays in this game where it was just picture-perfect passing. And like you said, they have, over the last 3 games, scored more than 30 points. As long as T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are in this lineup, this team can outscore anybody in the NFL. And again, I think that's what makes the 1-4 start so frustrating for this team, is because even if they were a little bit, right? Even if they were
if they were a little bit better on defense, just a little. If their defense was average right now, they'd be 5-0. They'd be the best team in the NFL.
Because just to be above 500 this year now, they have to go 8-4 the rest of the way. And That's hard because going 8-4 is a pretty dang good record. And to say that only gets you one game above 500 and probably doesn't make the playoffs, I mean, you have to sort of get unrealistic now. Well, I don't want to say unrealistic because anything can happen. We've seen great streaks happen in the league, but you got to start talking about you got to go 10-2. You got to go 9-3 to make the playoffs. You're the Bengals, and that's incredibly frustrating. And again, it's why you cannot start slow out of the gate. And it's what makes the Zach Taylor era so frustrating because they just do not start.
0-2 is a constant.
At least 0-1 is a constant, right? And so that's frustrating for this team. We'll get to Zach Taylor in a second. My most impressive, though, is Ja'Marr Chase, what he was able to do. 91.5 receiving grade, 193 receiving yards, 96 of those yards coming after the catch, 5 explosive plays of 15 yards or more. I mean, he was back. 4.60 yards per route run. I mean, that is stupid numbers for Ja'Marr Chase. So simply put, one of the best wide receivers that we have in the league, on fire with a great quarterback yesterday. You're most impressive and most disappointing, then we'll have the Zach Taylor conversation.
Let me get the number one receiver on the other side, Zay Flowers. Look, 111 yards on.
Would you say you're giving him his flowers?
I would. You know what? Now that you mention it, yes. Apparently, I wasn't going to do it without being aware of it, but yeah, we're going to do that. But anyway, 7 catches, 111 yards, actually a career high in a regular season game. 6 first downs, 4 missed tackles, and I think they need to get him working towards the sticks and in the intermediate game, or let him use the full route tree, right? I think there's some games where the Ravens get caught up in okay, let's just throw him screens and let's make him do all the work. Mm-hmm. No, let's actually have him run the real route tree. And I think if we get more of this version of Zay Flowers that we've seen in the past in moments in single games, if we can use Zay Flowers like this every single week more down the field, this can be easily their number one receiver. It's the most talented receiver, easily. It's just he can do things after the catch from anywhere on the field. Let him use his speed. Let him use his route running down the field more often. Really like the game that Zay Flowers played. And honestly, the one thing, I go to most disappointing here, the one thing the Bengals weren't great with in this game, their offensive line was not great, and Burrow and Chase and Higgins were working through it. Offensive line, just a 54.1 overall grade. Mm-hmm. Ravens had almost a 63% pass rush win rate, and in the run game, less than a yard, averaging yards before contact.
Which goes into my most disappointing. It is the Zach Taylor end of game situation because you get to overtime, which is what it is. 2 great teams going up against each other. You're going to overtime. Even though the Bengals fans probably think they should have won in regulation, it's fine. You're going to overtime. Lamar gets the ball first. They're marching down the field. They fumble, right? Okay, Bengals get it back. Now they're in a situation where Pratt picks up the fumble. He's rumbling, stumbling a little bit. They basically get on the edge of field goal range with Evan McPherson, who's one of the best kickers in the NFL, right off of the bat. Your offensive line in this game was getting worked. You really didn't have much going on in the run game. They had a 48.1 run blocking grade as a group on the day. There was not a lot that was going on in the run game. You then chose to run the football 3 times just to settle for basically a 60-yard field goal. I get it. You should have faith in Evan McPherson. Gator grade. All right? He's a fantastic kicker. You didn't need to do that, especially with the day Joe Burrow was having. That's your best football player. Put the ball in his hands. Now, after the game, he got asked about it, and he's like, yeah, we had a pass play called the first play, and Joe checked out of it. Okay. Well, you gained no yards on that play. So it was 2nd and 10. So at that point, if you are running the football again, you are basically saying, I don't really care if we get this first down or not. We're just kicking the field goal. Don't settle for a 60-yard field goal, and certainly don't settle putting the ball in somebody else's hand other than Joe Burrow. Now, I understand. Would you like to run the football there and at least get 8 or 9 yards to make this more manageable,
sure.
A 50-yard field goal?
Of course you would. You're also in overtime where the clock's not really a factor.
But no. Clock wasn't a factor. No, clock wasn't a factor at all. But you also have to have a finger on the pulse of your team and realize that you were not running the football well at all of this game.
Yeah.
Chase Brown, his long of a rush was 16 yards in this game. If you take that 16 yards away, he has 30 yards on 11 carries. And that's the highest yards per carry average that would have been on the team. Zach Moss was 9 carries for 24 yards. You were not running the football all game. Throw the football. Joe Burrow's got 5 touchdowns. Joe's got 400 passing yards. I just thought it was. Now, obviously, the bad snap happened. And that was still within McPherson's range. So if that's not a bad snap, Good chance he still wins that football game for you anyways. But I just think you can, as a head coach, you've got to put your players in better circumstances than what Zach Taylor did.
It's certainly within his range. We've seen it before. I think it was, 53 or 54? Two things. Yes, you mentioned it. Live and die with your best players. Your best players are Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Live and die with those guys. And if it's 3 incomplete passes, I don't think anybody says a word, honestly. I don't think they do. Does it always feel like, though, when teams like have that miraculous like earning of their way into a 55-yarder when they need it and there's 1 second on the clock, that kick always hits? And then when there's teams that passively do this and settle for 50-plus, they always miss it. Does it feel like that happens every time in these situations where it's like, oh, we're good, we have a 55-yarder, we'll be fine? Doesn't it feel like they always miss those?
It's got no pressure.
It's this passive mindset, and anything can go wrong. Okay, cool, yeah, the bad snap, yeah. These things can happen. If a bad snap happens on a 30-yarder, he might still just push it through. Don't settle. Don't live and die with your best players, and don't settle for it feels like it might be the football gods thing, but it feels like every time a team goes, yeah, we got a 55-yarder, easy money. No. I know kickers are more freakish than ever. I even see college kickers hitting more 60-yarders than I've ever seen before, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean in a high-pressure environment with essentially your season on the line that it's easy either.
Chat's reminding me that it wasn't a bad snap, it was a bad hold. You were correct.
Yeah.
It was a bad hold, it was not a bad snap. But no, I agree with you, man. And it's sort of, again, I didn't want to, I said this early in the show, I didn't want to be a hypocrite about it because we went after Sean McDermott for passing the ball 3 times when he's putting the ball in Josh's hand, which that part of the argument I like.
Difference.
But it's different context.
The Bills ran the ball really well all day.
Certainly better.
They ran the ball twice as well as the Bengals did. The Bengals, even with all the points they put up, did not run the ball well at all.
Disappointing.
That's 2 different things. The Bills win by running the ball a pretty good amount. The Bengals don't. And in that spot, I don't. The first down play, fine. You can have the first. You mentioned it.
Right.
The next 2, it's 2nd and 10. Don't treat it like Don't treat it like Evan McPherson's 100%. And I know he's great. He's Gator great. You mentioned it, but like, don't just treat it like it's automatic. From 30 yards, okay, run the ball 3 times, or even kicking on first down. Honestly, whatever. But settling for 55 is rough.
Yeah.